I feel like Little Miss Chatterbox is probably one of the most heavily merchandised Little Miss characters. There are all kinds of Little Miss mugs, t-shirts, keyrings, etc. And I can understand why. This character is definitely one that I think a lot of people will be able to relate to. When we get our introduction to Little Miss Chatterbox, we learn that she talks non-stop. She talks all of the time. And I actually didn't know, although I probably could have worked it out if I'd thought about it, her brother is actually Mr. Chatterbox. And unusually, that's quite different because there are, of course, pairs like Mr. Small and Little Miss Tiny, but that's my cat's head, where they're not usually related. So I thought it was actually kind of interesting that they definitely made that connection there, which I rather like. I think it worked quite well. And we learned that Little Miss Chatterbox actually has a problem because her talking gets her into a bit of trouble in different jobs. She works in a bank. She doesn't give anybody money because she wants to stop talking. She works in a restaurant. Poor Mr. Greedy doesn't get any food because she won't stop talking, and then the restaurant closes. And it's all about her struggling to hold down a job and really stop getting in on people's nerves by being a chatterbox. And thankfully, nobody ever tells her to shut up, because I think that's really important, especially with younger children reading this. If a child is a chatterbox, telling them to just shut up outright could actually damage them. Depending on the child, of course, some children would, water off of a duck's back, but it could actually shock a child into being very reserved and very withdrawn. And I think it's always important that if a child does have that kind of enthusiasm for communication, to show it in a positive way. And this is what happens with Miss Chatterbox. I will disclose the ending of the book. At the end, Little Miss Chatterbox gets a job as a speaking clock. Not so much a thing nowadays, of course, but when these were published in the 80s, 1981, is that correct? 1984 for Little Miss Chatterbox. Of course, people would phone up to get the correct time, and this means that Little Miss Chatterbox gets to speak all of the time by saying what the time is. And it's all about putting this quality to good use, rather than just telling her she has to shut up and stop talking, because communication is a good thing. And with so many people, children and adults, myself included, not really liking talking to people that much, I think it's actually a really positive message. Little Miss Chatterbox, as I said, is very heavily merchandised. She features on all kinds of stationery and toys and things. And I can see why. I think it's a trait a lot of people have. It's a really nice story, very well told, really good message. And I think Little Miss Chatterbox as a character is very likeable as well.